What's going on, guys? I'm back with another one, and I just watched a movie called Don't Worry, Darling, starring Chris Pine, Harry Styles, and Florence Pugh. No matter how many times I say her name, I feel like I'm saying it wrong. But that's how you pronounce it, though. First of all, whatever happened to Fairuza Balk? All right, she was the pinnacle. She was the first image, in my eyes, of what goth is, or what you guys call emo now, or however that works. Okay, I don't know how that works out, but far back as 1985, a movie called Return to Oz came out. That was the part 2 to Wizard of Oz, of course. She was in that movie. That was one of the first ones I might have just seen her in. I didn't even know that was her. And that's kind of a pattern going on here. You know what I'm saying? She is noticeable in one movie, but not in another. I don't know if that's good or bad. But let's continue on, all right? Because years later, 1996, she was in The Craft. This is a classic right here, man. This is a classic to the fullest, all right? She was the perfect villain from friend to foe. All right, she had the head shaking going on. She was going crazy. She just worked. She worked that role. All right, very memorable. Very memorable. Maybe a little bit more than other characters in the movie. Okay. But then in that same year, The Eye of Dr. Moreau came out. Well, she was also in that. I forgot. See, you remember she's in one, and you forget she's in another role. It happens a lot with her. But I forgot she was in that movie. And I saw that movie. I watched that movie, okay? Then in 1998, Waterboy came out. And that's another one that was just tremendously a great movie. Just hilarious. For her to go from dark to comedy so fast. The transition was so good. It was perfect. Because she played that crazy country girl. As I can recall, the line was, "Officer, get her country ass out of here." And I laughed. I laughed so hard at that because it was referring to her. It was referring to her. Because she was just a loose cannon. Okay? Unattainable. Then, within the same year, American History X came out. And she was in that. And I saw that movie as well. And I don't remember her being in that movie. Okay, so she seems to disappear into some of her roles. Maybe that's what it is. And in some roles, she stands out so hard. Which means she was really made for that. But unfortunately, this might be her worst one. Life in the Fast Lane, which came out also in that same year. I just watched that. And I want my time back. I want my hours back. The only reason I watched it was because of her. Honestly. Jesus. But then in 2000, Almost Famous came out. And this is another one. Another great film. So now we're going from dark to comedy to drama. Because she plays one of the groupies. But she stands out very well. I remember the scene where she's running for the bus and then she runs into the pillar outside. I can't get that out of my mind. She brought comedy into something that was supposed to be so serious. All right. Loved her for that. Loved her for that. 2 years later, Deuces Wild came out. Now this is more of your period piece right here. Good movie. I almost forgot that she was in it, but now that I remember this, I remember her. All right, it's more of your realer version of West Side Story without the singing and the dancing. Thank goodness. All right. And my question is, whatever happened to her? She had movies after this, but they were nowhere nearly as good as these movies I just mentioned. Will we ever see her again? I hope so. But let's see that review. Don't Worry, Darling. For those who don't know, for those who are not aware, If you don't know about this movie now, you're in some fantasy land in the 50s, living it like it used to be lived, living life like it used to be lived. All right. You have no idea what's going on in the modern world for some reason. All right. Because this trailer has been played so many dang times. All right. Don't play me. Don't play me. Don't play me. All right. Don't Worry, Darling. It's pretty much about a easier time, so to speak, in some people's idea, in the 1950s, where the wife cooked the dinner and the husband came home from work, and there's a lot of this going on. There's six guys, there's six husbands, at least, all right, who all live next to each other, ironically. And they all go to work the same time. They come home. The wives do the same thing every day, and everything seems perfect, or so it does, until things start to crack. All right, from the surface, and one of the wives her eyes are open all the way to what might be going on there, and there's a mystery behind all of it, and she must find out what is going on here. Is this really life? Is this really going on? Is life really happening like this? I've got to find out. That's the premise of the movie. Without saying too much. If I say too much, I'm going to give a lot away. Positives. I have to say off the bat, Florence Pugh did a incredible job in her acting skills with this one. She brought life to her character that I don't think anybody else playing that role could have did. All right, with the reactions or the slow transition of finding out what's really going on with her life and the world she's in. All right, she was such a curious character. She was so curious in this movie, and when you have somebody like Florence Pugh whose facial expressions can really just emote that, because she did it and the other movie she was in. Okay, my mind went a blank, but you know what I'm talking about. She did it in that movie. She did it in this movie. Okay, it's just a way that she brought life to this character that I enjoyed. All right, because I hate to say it, besides her, nobody else really was bringing it like this. Nobody else in the movie was able to have that emotion that she had. And I guess because of things that was happening to her, but still, she did such a good job with this character. Hands down. I gotta thank her for that. Another positive. I enjoyed the 1950s vibe in this movie, man. It was done so well. I have to also mention this is also sort of a throwback or a new look on Stepford Wives, if you think about it. Oh, you don't have to think that hard. It really is a throwback on Stepford Wives. All right. So the way that this was done, it's more of a raw version of Stepford Wives. What the adult us wants to see. Okay, because if I'm correct, Stepford Wives was it PG-13? Now if I'm wrong, it'll be at the bottom of the screen. But I do believe it was PG-13. All right, but still, that whole 1950s vibe, the whole throwback vibe to it, it just felt like it was right. It was right for this kind of mindset of the old school values of, you know, the wife is supposed to do this and the husband's supposed to do that, which is not always a bad thing. So, okay, sometimes it could be kind of, all right, caveman-like, and to think like that all the time. But if everyone is agreeable with it, everybody's cool with that arrangement, then things work. But of course, in this movie, it's not quite like that. All right, something is amiss. All right, which makes that whole setup a little troublesome. But I like how it was hard to see what was under the wraps because everything looked so back in the day, old timey, and it just felt right. All right. My last positive about this, the mystery to this movie. You'll never guess. You'll never guess what's really going on. Now, some might be able to guess close, but I'm telling you right now, the way this movie is done, all right, it really plays with the mind. And through the whole movie, I'm just wondering, what is really going on here? What is really going on in this movie? I need to know. It wasn't like in Stepford Wives. I hate to compare, but I have to. It wasn't like in Stepford Wives where you kind of knew what was going on, from the get, but you just wanted to see how it was going to play out, right? But in this one, you're still, almost towards the end of the movie, you're still kind of, okay, I know this, but what about this? What's going on with this? I need to know, because it's got to be on the edge of my seat. What's going to happen? And something goes wrong with that. I'll mention later on, but all the way leading up to it had me reeled in. It reeled me in, like I got caught with somebody's hook on some fishing type stuff, man. It really it did it to me. It did it to me with the mystery. It got me. Negatives. There were a lot of very important details excluded from this movie. All right. There was things that did not really make sense at all. Okay. Things that were left out that if they were included, we could have seen a lot more with this film. Honestly. Like, why there's a scene, okay, there's a scene in this movie where she's taking a bus, trying to see how far she can go, right? But then she sees a plane crash. And the plane, she goes to check it out to see where did that plane go? Where did the plane go? Where you just can't walk that far and then there's no remains or no aftermath of what happened to that plane crash. You just can't walk that far. As far as she walked so far. She's in really good shape because she walked really far to see what happened to that plane. All right? She was really nosy. Let's put it like that. And she never found that plane. I'm not going to say what happened, but she never found that plane. All right? And there's other things that happen in this movie that make me scratch my head like, okay, so whatever happened to this? What were they going to do with this character? What about this character? What's going on with this? And you just can't leave stuff out like that. Okay? You just can't make this happen. I can't say. There's a part in here that really made me, it just baffled me. But I can't say. I can't say, or it's going to spoil so much. So just know that. Just know that going into this movie. All right? Another negative. The villain could have been a lot more intimidating than what he was. We all know the villain was Frank, played by Chris Pine. Okay. He had a sense of control over the whole matter. He was the head guy who was over this town. All right? He was down. He was the main one down with, how the wives were serving their men and made sure that everything was going right and introducing new couples into the flock, so to speak. It's kind of cult-like, but whatever. And I felt like, oh, okay, he's gonna be good. He's gonna just go crazy towards the end. He's the guy not to be messed with. But as I kept watching, he was such a letdown. It was a letdown. It was a lot of hype that came down to nothing with him. All right, he seemed like he had everybody under his fist, but no, it was just, he ended up being so weak. I wanted a lot more out of Chris Pine's character. There could have been so much more from him. Okay, as soon as he found something out, he's trying to make sure these guys keep their wives in control or whatever. And as soon as things started to crumble, I needed to see him react, like really react. Okay, like you think a guy like that would react, but he did not, and it was such a lackluster to me. I hated that. Another thing I hated, the ending left me empty. The ending was a tease. It was such a tease. And of course, I can't go into a lot of detail on why, but the way they did it, they hinted at it early on in the movie. But then, of course, they went back to it again, and they did the same exact damn thing. Now, you kind of get what kind of happened overall, but I wanted to see more afterwards. What happened after that happened, okay? There's always that part in the movie at the end where I'm just all going to say, like, what just went down? We didn't even get that. We didn't get that. We didn't get a proper climax with this movie. I'm sorry. And for that, I have to give this an I cool. Yes, an I cool. If they would have just made this a little more edgier than what it was, and then just don't tease us at the end like that, okay? That's not right. That's not right. Give us everything. Give us everything. Need you to like, share, and subscribe.